you have.
Right.
So
now, is it mostly men using that, or are women using that?
well, it didn't really. The ones they talked about were men. I don't know. They may have ones for women too.
Right.
But this was a particular one was for men. It didn't really. I'm assuming it was all men in this particular unit. But they said the numbers are increasing, and now they're the government is taking a look at this and trying to give some tax breaks to people. But they said these people that were in there were just saying basically it was a lot less money than them trying to get an apartment in Tokyo,
right.
which is very expensive.
Right.
So now we don't really necessarily have anything like that in the States yet, but
No, I think the closest we have are the single room occupancy only hotels.
Right. Right.
But they're not. That's not the same because you're not living in a capsule.
Right. But like before, we had that article about people living in a storage locker.
Right.
You just never know.
Right. That's
if something
true.
like
That's
this
a good
could
point.
pop up, like in a big city, like by like New York or San Francisco or someplace where you have very high rental, this could be something that may show up in the future.
Right. Now you have an article about.
Yeah. Speaking about houses. There's an article here. This is from the New York Times. Title of it is "Men Who Jump the Picket Fence." It's by Michael Tortello. And basically the gist of the article is that the American dream is to own a house, and these were just a lot of stories about people, men in particular, who had bought houses and had really regretted making that purchase. Due to the financial strains and the time constraints on their life.
Right.
Like one guy said he used to do this and that. He used to have somewhat of a fun-filled life, and now he spends all his weekends working on his house, trying to maintain it, and all his money is going into trying to fix things.
Right. And we had talked about that in one of the earlier shows, that I'm not so sure that everyone should own a home. I'm not sure that that's as good of an investment as we've been told that it's a good investment. I think home ownership is good if you have children. But as a single person or as a divorcee, I know I enjoyed not living in a home.
It's funny that in the article said that new homes, that 21% were by single women and only 10% by single men.
Right.
So they said that single women actually were looking to purchase homes more.
Well, I think because women might tend to stay with their jobs longer. I think the article was saying that men tend to be more willing to relocate, and so I think women, if they're tied to a certain community, that they may more likely want to buy a home and just settle down and have some roots, whereas men are more apt to, according to that article, I'm not saying this is true, but according to the article, men are more apt to relocate if necessary. Right. For
right,
as they start working their way up the career ladder.
Right, and one theory too is that men were more likely to maybe room with buddies,
right,
than women.
Right.
So
did you ever do that? Did you ever have roommates outside of being in college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in an apartment.
Okay.
So.
Right.
So it's just it's just an interesting theory because everybody. They're basically saying we're so programmed just to, that's the thing you do. To be successful, you have to own a home.
Right.
And this is kind of taking another look at that, saying, well, maybe it's not, what it's all kicked out to be.
Particularly in this economy, I think as long as the home values are rising, and they had the investment component, it made sense. But now with home values stagnating and even decreasing in value, I think looking to own a home. You have to really want to own a home because you want a home, not because you're looking for it to be an investment.
Mm-hmm. You also have to have the mindset maybe to kind of be a homebody and work on your home. And
right. So now you have an article about parking meters in Chicago.
Yeah, we had talked about this in the past. This is an article from ChicagoTribune.com. This was from December 31st. They're saying there's going to be an increase on the cost of parking again from the meter company. And so, like any story, they kind of did a plus and minus. One of the, oddly enough, and I guess this kind of makes sense, that one of the pluses from having these higher costs is that there's some people that I suppose travel around in the city a lot, and they're actually able to find parking spots.
Right. I think the reason why they're finding parking spots is because people don't want to pay parking and they're avoiding the city.
Right.
I think that article is a little bit misleading in that sense, because I noticed that too. As soon as they implemented the new parking meters that where I lived at before when I was living in the city, immediately the streets were empty.
Right. Before you could never find a parking spot.
Exactly.
Save your life, and then all of a sudden there were open spots. But even as time went on, those spots were starting to, be filled a little bit more.
Right.
They're saying that to a certain extent, they're saying that people are getting used to the new prices, and that it's just an adjustment period.
Right. Now, how much does it cost to park with those parking meters on an hourly basis?
$4.25 an hour.
Okay, so $4.25 an hour. So imagine you're a minimum wage worker. You're driving into the city. You make, let's say, a little bit. You make a little bit over the minimum wage. Let's say you make $10 an hour. So really, you're only gonna net $6 an hour. So I think the parking meter, I think the article even mentioned that one of the negative or downsides about the parking meters, in particular the price increase, is that it's really hurting certain businesses that tend to hire your lower wage earners because they cannot afford to come into the city and pay for the parking. So as a result, I think the article mentioned a couple of people that ended up quitting their job in the city and finding a job in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, for shopping, I have to confess that I tend to park. It's just really refreshing going out to the suburbs and being able to go into a shopping mall and just park and go shopping. You can go from store to store to store and park. But in the city, every time you go in and out of, you don't have that type of flexibility. When you go into a parking lot, you've got to pay this astronomical fee. And then if you come out, let's say if you want to go into another neighborhood or something, you'd have to pay the parking meter box. So you can spend a lot of money just on parking. I think like if you were to park for just one day in the city of Chicago, you're paying $35 a day at a downtown lot, and that's a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's a funny thing, this article, there was a guy that was an environmentalist and saying, well, this is going to force people to take public transportation, and it's a good thing.
I think that that's true, because I will say that I do use public transportation more than I used to, but I also think that people will find ways to avoid the city, because not only do you have to take in consideration the high cost of parking, but then also the city of Chicago has one of the highest sales taxes. I think our sales tax overall is higher than even New York. So I think it costs, what is it, $10? I'm sorry, it's like 10.5%, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah, it's over 10%.
So, you pay 10.5%, let's say, when you're going shopping, because that always catches me off guard. You buy something, it's on sale, and if I get like a small coupon that says I get 10% off, I mean, to me, 10% off just means I broke even. I'm not really getting a sale at all. I'm just covering my sales tax. So you can buy the same item on sale in the suburbs, and you not only do you save on parking, but you actually get a real 10% off. So at least the sales tax isn't as high as it is here in the city of Chicago. So it's a concern, because the city and state governments, look at California, look at Illinois, they're struggling, and one of the ways of making up revenue is by raising taxes and increasing parking meter fees and things of that nature. But I think it's a catch-22, because you run the risk of people avoiding this city at the time where you really need people to come into the city.
Yeah, but in this case, with these parking meters, which is now owned by an outside firm, the extra money doesn't go to the city because they sign a lease agreement.
Right, that's true. That is so true.
So they don't have any control over it.
Right.
So
that makes it even worse still.
Right.
Right.
So these businesses now, if they're having a problem, let's say the parking meter company comes by and raises the fees, and all of a sudden people stop coming to their stores, they're kind of stuck. They have no recourse.
Right.
They can't go to the city and complain.
Right.
About it.
Right.
So it's it'd be interesting to see how it shakes out in the long term.
Right. Now, during the holiday season, when you were going shopping, what did you think about the stores? Because I'm kind of the numbers haven't yet come in as to how well the retailers did with regards to the Christmas season. We don't know the final numbers yet. So what's your guess? Do you think the sales were up, down, negative, positive, neutral?
It's kind of sometimes hard to tell just by walking around in the stores. I don't think they were nearly as crowded as they used to be. No. I'm just talking 5-10 years ago. Right. Didn't seem like that, but they do say the numbers were encouraging.
Right.
I don't know if they counted online purchases there too, though. That's always that's a growing sector. So sometimes it's hard to get a real good feel. People may be shopping more online and still spending the same amount of money.
Right. Well, I did some after Christmas shopping, did some of the after Christmas sales, and I was just amazed at how much merchandise there was available in the stores. Mm-hmm. So I would suspect that within the next few weeks we're going to start having some serious clearances. Otherwise, the stores aren't going to be able to have room for their spring and summer merchandise.
Yeah, knowing that they want to get some of that inventory off the books.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I guess that ends our show right now for today.
Okay.
Unless you have another topic. Did you have another topic?
No, I think we got some things I think we'll talk about next week.
Okay.
You know, kind of keep it short.
Right.
Because it'll. There's a little bit too much information. I think it's going to run over.
Right.
How much more time we got. So.
Right. Okay. Well, until next week. Enjoy.
Okay. Yes. We'll see ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.